everyone, Brandon here from Sasquatch Studios. Well, holy it's been really hectic since our last video, and I think I've maybe learned to give us a little more wiggle room when it comes to making deadlines, because in our very first video I said that I wanted to have a playable prototype finished in 2 weeks from that day, from the day that we published our first video. Well, the prototype is done. It's done, which feels really, really good. But it took us 3 weeks and 6 days to finish it. I'm not gonna lie about the time. So almost exactly double what we were hoping to do. But I want to cover a lot of content in a very short amount of time so that I can show you the full prototype at the end of this video. So let's get right into it. What got done since our last video? Well, first we finally came up with a name. So Project Metroidvania is out and Veil of Maya is in, which is really, really exciting. It feels so great to have a name. And be sure to let me know what you think of the name down in the comments below. So Nikki had a long list of assets to create since our last video. She had to create tileable paths, moss, grass, rocks, stalactites, hills, flowers, UI elements for the health, backgrounds, and more character animations. And implementing the art was a whole other story, since we want a nice smooth parallax effect, which you will see in the full prototype at the end of this video. But you end up having to do these multiple passes of implementing the art into the level on different layers in order for the level to even start to look good. I also needed a proper enemy that wasn't just like a red square to test player abilities and damage and all of that stuff on, so she gave me this cute little hedgehog looking guy with a basic walk animation, which was really fun to play around with. Getting a moving and animating enemy into the game was really, really important for the prototypes so that I could properly test out the player's new ability, telekinesis, which is really, really fun to play around with. What we essentially wanted was for the player to be able to fling around just about any basic enemy in the game, and the enemy will take more damage the harder that you smash them into the ground. So the faster they're going, the more damage they're going to take, and it gives you these fun scenarios where you can end up killing 2 enemies at once by smashing them into each other, which is really cool. There's a whole lot of tweaking that needs to be done in order to get this working perfectly. There's still a lot of bugs to be worked out, but it's working quite well right now for the prototype, and I'm really, really happy with it. The next thing to tackle was how to carve out new levels. And I mean, just what is the fastest possible way to create just the basic outline of what is the ground and what are the walls in a level with no other art implemented whatsoever, so that we can prototype and create new areas and new rooms very quickly. This is a Metroidvania game, so there's going to be hundreds, probably hundreds and hundreds of different rooms in the final commercial version of the game, so efficiency is a really big must here. So what we decided on was actually, we're just using the tile system in Unity, but with just a black square, no detail whatsoever. I have no interest in using tiles for the actual art, because we're not doing pixel art or anything like that. And what this allows us to do is to just paint the outline of the level really, really quickly with all the proper colliders and all that stuff to make sure that you're not falling through the ground, which allowed me to build this test room for the chase sequence really, really quickly. Now, for the chase sequence in the prototype, the basic premise is that fear is chasing you through these tight, really narrow, claustrophobic, cave-like tunnels, and if fear touches you, then you have to restart the sequence. There was not anything too complicated to do here, because there's no curves or bends in the level or anything like that. I kind of just was able to give fear a just move from A to B type of system and make him fast enough to pose a challenge. Now, what I did not anticipate with making this is how many areas, even in this basic level that I made, how many areas that the player could actually just kind of hide away in the corner and wait for fear to pass by, and then you can kind of cheat the system by letting him pass right by you by just kind of hiding. Maybe he wasn't big enough to cover that area. So we had to think of a solution to this, which ended up being this rectangle that trails behind fear, which will also make you restart the sequence if you touch that trail that's following him, and it covers the length of any corridor that fear happens to be passing through, and it resizes every time he enters a new corridor, so that it doesn't end up like, you know, poking up through the floor of any corridor that's above him, because that wouldn't be very fair. So you end up having fear going through these corridors and hallways, and you've got this trail that follows behind him, but it's resizing on the fly depending on how narrow or how wide the corridor actually is. It's pretty cool. Now, once all of that was done, it seemed like a really good time to implement health for the player, and the health is limited to just 3 in the chase sequence, specifically just 3 in the chase sequence, no matter how many health upgrades that you have found in the main areas of the game. The chase sequences are supposed to be an optional challenge, so I don't want you being able to go through them with, like, 12 health and just cheesing your way through it. But there also needs to be regular enemies in there to force you to occasionally have to slow down, which will allow fears to catch up to you. Initially, I set it up so that getting hit by anything in the chase sequence would make you have to restart, but after some initial playtesting, it was way too frustrating and it just wasn't fun doing it that way. So we changed it to fear makes you restart the sequence if he catches you, but you have 3 health to take hits from regular enemies or damage zones like spikes or lava or anything like that throughout the entire sequence. And with this clip here, you can see one of the enemies in the chase sequence. I'm not sure what I want the art to look like for them yet, so we kept them as just floating orbs for now, but what was important to me was being able to deflect the projectiles back towards the enemies, which is actually really, really satisfying to get right when you properly do it, and that was a lot of fun to implement. I also wanted to add an element of suspense in the chase sequence by letting the player know where fear is at all times. So I added this little arrow that points to him and a number that actually calculates the distance to how close you are to fear. And I really like it because the smaller the number gets as you're running through the level, you kind of start to get this frantic feeling because he's catching up to you. It also seems fair to give the player an indication of how far ahead you are, and I didn't really want to do this through the use of a mini map or anything like this. This was kind of a very simple way of executing that. And with all of that being said, that was the rundown of all of the main features that have been added since the last video. It was not without problems. There were definitely a few problems. Some were funny and some were frustrating, but that is how it goes with game dev. But now I'd like to actually play through the prototype here so that you can see everything implemented with all of the art and all of the systems and all of the stuff in one place. I will do my best to talk and play at the same time. Hopefully we don't come across too many bugs in our playthrough, but here we go. I hope you enjoy. All right, let's play Veil of Maya. Gonna have a hard time not using telekinesis the whole way through. It's a lot of fun to use. Let me see if I can. Oh. There we go. Get out of here. Oh. That way. There you go. I should keep this moving. Oh. After I take care of this guy. And boom. There we go. Alright, and this is going to take us into the chase sequence. There's still a lot of fine tuning to do here because I find it a bit easy, but you can see we have actual art implemented for fear now. He's kind of this smoky orb that follows you around. We're also using post-processing to make everything black and white here, which I thought was a really nice kind of nightmarish effect. I also implemented something where if you take damage in one of these damage areas, you'll get teleported back to the ground. It's obviously something you want. I left myself with only 1 health. Hopefully I can do this without dying. Okay. That's not supposed to happen. I'm dodging you suckers. Moving on. And this is the exit here. So that's just going back to the beginning. And you can see some stuff errors out here at the bottom. But yeah, that is the full-on prototype. We just have two little areas. One for the chase sequence that's in black and white, and this guy in color here. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to show us some love.